previously on In Transition.
So there's a lot of opportunities for me to teach those designers those things that are on the ground, working with a development team or going into a company that will help them be more successful. So I really want to do something along those lines.
That's awesome. You want to pay it forward.
I do. Because there was no one that, showed me. I mean, I remember going to conferences and I was the only woman of color in the room. Hundreds of people, and I'm the only Black woman there. I did not cry about it, though. I mean, I see people doing TikToks about it, but the reason I think I didn't cry about it at that time is because I knew that I belonged in that room. I had done everything that I needed to do to prepare me to be in that room. I didn't feel like I didn't belong there. I was going to be the best that I could be and show them why I deserve to be in that room. So I wasn't intimidated at all by everyone else not looking like me. I had grown up in a culture where people came from everywhere and they were from everywhere. And I think that informs who I am today. I did not feel that being around people that were different was in any way a reflection of who I was. And so that came from my upbringing and the love and the confidence that my family has instilled in me.
We are so excited to be back for part 2 of this conversation. If you haven't listened to part 1, we encourage you to go back and take a listen. Now on to the show.
So there's a lot of opportunities for me to teach those designers those things that are on the ground, working with a development team or going into a company that will help them be more successful. So I really want to do something along those lines.
That's awesome. You want to pay it forward.
I do. Because there was no one that, showed me. I mean, I remember going to conferences and I was the only woman of color in the room. Hundreds of people, and I'm the only Black woman there. I did not cry about it, though. I mean, I see people doing TikToks about it, but the reason I think I didn't cry about it at that time is because I knew that I belonged in that room. I had done everything that I needed to do to prepare me to be in that room. I didn't feel like I didn't belong there. I was going to be the best that I could be and show them why I deserve to be in that room. So I wasn't intimidated at all by everyone else not looking like me. I had grown up in a culture where people came from everywhere and they were from everywhere. And I think that informs who I am today. I did not feel that being around people that were different was in any way a reflection of who I was. And so that came from my upbringing and the love and the confidence that my family has instilled in me.
Same. I was pretty much the same. Like, you have every right to be in that room. Just
100%. And I'm going to make my parents proud.
While
I'm in that room, because they went through too much, right?
My dad would always tell me stuff. My dad would always tell me, like, when I would have to go into things where maybe there was a really good possibility I would be the only woman of color in something, and he and I would talk, and I would always call my dad before I would have to walk into those rooms. And we joke. My dad would know when I was nervous. And so he would tell me really, really corny, maybe even sometimes probably inappropriate jokes to just kind of keep me, focused. But then I'm like, okay, I'm here. I got to go. He's like, all right, whose daughter are you? And it's like a twofold question, and I'm like, well, I'm Fred's daughter.
Oh, Fred.
And I'm, I can't really shout out to well, yeah, he's listening in heaven.
Yeah, he's listening.
But it was just like, whose daughter are you? Well, I'm your daughter. But then there would also be, okay, but who else's daughter are you? And I'm like, okay, Daddy, I'm a child of God. I got to go, and then he's just like, go do what you do. But there was very rarely where there was a situation where it was like, I feel weird here,
Yes.
But even if there were those situations, it would be, okay, why did you feel weird? And what are you going to do to not feel weird in the next time? So I get it. Yeah.
Right. I'm a huge fan of this show on Apple Plus called Ted Lasso. I want to be Ted Lasso.
Who doesn't love Ted Lasso?
Now I want some biscuits.
I love that show. I actually just watched it before this call, and I love how he does not allow himself to be diminished no matter what is happening around him, even when he's having a rough time. And me and my son Kalen talk about, we want to be Ted Lasso, but what it helped me to see was, don't let yourself, it's kind of the Alchemist, or not the Alchemist, the Four Agreements.
Mhm.
Don't allow yourself to be triggered by other people. Really
Yeah.
try to stand in, this is not necessarily always about you, what people are doing or saying. Do not allow yourself to be taken off of your game or who you are because of what someone else is doing.
Sometimes
That's so important. And Ted does that really well in that show. And I look at it as like, that's, I want to be like him when I grow up.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love the Four Agreements. So it's like everyone should read that book like
It's such a
once
good
a,
book.
once
And
a
it's
year.
a short book, right?
Yeah, once a year, revisit the Four Agreements. Don't take things personally. I think that's like
Yeah.
that agreement. Like
There are a few books that you should probably read every single year just to kind of remind. Lauren and I were talking about the 5 a.m. code, or 5 a.m. club, my bad.
Yeah.
And she had sent me a podcast that Robin Sharma had done. And I'm like, oh my God, I love the 5 a.m. club. I probably need to read it again. And she's like, me too. And
it's on my bookshelf back here.
yeah, it's one of those things where it's like,
I'm gonna read. I just finished his first book, and so I haven't read the 5 a.m. Club. So
it's such a good.
I'm gonna add it to. I'm going on vacation next week. I'm gonna take it with me.
It's such a good book.
We're gonna start it up again and be accountability partners.
Yep. Like I was just like, let's just do the 20-20-20 starting Monday. And I go, we're each other's accountability partners. Yep. And she's like,
let's do it.
Let's do it.
That is so cool because I think I did a site for a wonderful woman, and she must have read that book because one of the services in her business is the 5 a.m. club. And so now I know where she got that from, that particular service. Yeah.
It is such a, I remember when I had a really good friend of mine tell me about it. And I remember I bought it on Audible, I think, and I would listen to it on my morning walks. And I remember when it started, it wasn't anything like I expected it to be.
It's not.
It's not. It's
nothing like you expect it to be.
Look at the title, and then you start, in my case, listening to it. And I was just like, what the heck is this about? And like, it took a couple of chapters for me to be like, okay, this book is amazing.
It's woven into this story.
Yeah, it's so wild how the story folds out, but it's such a good book. I'm
gonna get it now for sure.
10 out of 10. 10 out of 10.
Yeah, and I think about like we'll probably bring that into our community at some point as something for people to learn how to do, because it is about up leveling as a human and reaching your highest potential.
Yeah.
So I want to go back to like this concept of really knowing who you are as an entrepreneur, especially when you think about creating a heart-centered, purpose-driven business. I think a lot of people like bypass that for whatever reason. Like
100%, they skip it.
Yeah, they're like, I don't need to know who I am. I'm like, I have this really great idea, but I'm like, the brand, at least these types of brands, I think about are an extension of the human behind them.
Yes.
And what would you say would be the best way to like make sure you've taken that step? Like being really clear who you are and what purpose or mission you're trying to achieve in the world.
I don't know if there's a way to make sure. I think it's the first step. What I do in my business is they come to me and they don't have it done. I will tell them I can't really work with them until they go back and do that, because it shows up in it shows up in you don't have a tagline. I'm not a tagline. You don't have any clear positioning. I don't know what you do. I looked at the top of your website. You just have like a bunch of weird stuff. I scroll. I'm not understanding. I've looked at your social. It's inconsistent with what you say you do. Like, I'm not sure, what is it that you do? So a lack of clarity causes a lot of problems when you're trying to market your business. If people aren't clear with what you're doing, it shows up in your bank account. No one will hire you because they don't know what you do. Yeah, so you have to be really clear, and you have to be consistently clear, because there's so many places, so many touch points of your digital asset and journey online, that if you're clear, if you say something here and then over here you say something different, and then it's really going to cause people to be very confused about how to engage with you. I've seen it in my own brand when I haven't taken the time to really be up to update all my touch points, that it sometimes can create confusion. So you have to take the time, the consistent time, to say, okay, if I'm going to have a Pinterest, a Twitter, an Instagram, a LinkedIn, a website, and a YouTube, I have to make sure I update everything consistently at one time. And then the email, of course, because to not do that is going to hurt your business.
I'm currently now thinking of all my branding.
Yeah, it's going to
Like,
hurt your business.
oh,
You don't know where people are going to come in to
Yeah.
engage with your funnel. And so they may come in from any of those touch points and people check you out. They just do.
mhm.
Yeah.
So
they
you
do.
have to be intentional about taking the time to fix that, you know, that story, that message. It's the through line is the messaging I'm talking about. That's the through line. That's
Yeah.
through everything.
Yeah.
And you really have to make sure that you identify that through line right
So-
at the beginning.
So if they look at you on, if they may initially find you on Pinterest, but then they're like, oh, wow, she's a YouTube channel. Okay, well, okay, I see the colors. She's saying the same thing. The vibe is the same. Oh, wow, she's a LinkedIn. Okay, well,
Yes.
yeah.
That's right, because you're creating content, you're showing up, you're doing LinkedIn lives, and you're on Instagram lives, and you're all this content. If I Google you, I'm gonna find a bunch of stuff about you. Google yourself. That's another good thing to do. And then you see how people see you, and then you're like, oh, okay, this is the resonant message for me when people engage with me, because your brand is not who you say you are; it's who other people say you are.
Yeah, true.
Right?
Very true.
Yeah, it's you know, if I see your brand and I see how you show up. I have a friend, I'm doing a new brand for her, and she's always smiling and everything. I mean, she's got this like you know, on all of her photos. And so I told her, I said, your brand is about joy. It is, you know, describe your brand in 3 words. I said, you're definitely a social impact influencer, but you are joyful in all of your photos. So your brand, one of your brand values is joy. And she's like, oh my God, I didn't even know that. I said, yes, that's how you show up. And if I see you, I associate something joyful with you.
Ooh, that's
So
such an
Positive
exercise.
experience.
yeah. So
Yeah.
ask your customers who you are.
Yeah,
Ooh.
I like that.
Yeah.
And also
Ask
think
them
about, I like that. Think about the 3 words you would use to describe your brand,
Mhm.
because that
And
forces
ask
you to
them
get
to
up
do that
concise.
exercise
Yeah.
too. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like those. As someone who has a lot of experience in entrepreneurship, what would you say is the biggest mistake you see people make early on in entrepreneurship when they're like, I'm gonna start taking this step, I'm gonna build my business? And what could they
I
do
think
to avoid some of those?
I think one of the biggest mistakes is people make is not creating a good foundational structure to the business, like opening their bank account, getting their EIN, not having that structure. IRS is going to come after you. Like if you don't
They will
separate
find
your
you.
business from your personal, you start putting all your money from your business into your personal, it creates a lot of, because they call it commingling funds, right? But it's also hard for you to get any kind of funding, any kind of, lines of credit, to really run your business. And one of the reasons that businesses fail has to do with cash flow. It's like the number one reason businesses will not make it is because they don't have sufficient cash flow. So if you don't have money and you can't fund your business and you can't pay your people or yourself, you're not going to be in business for very long. And being able to get good credit and being able to have those financial foundations to help support the business is super important. So you need to make sure that you are in good financial health, that you get good financial software, that you're watching, your business, and you're paying your taxes, all those things, because it's not just about the fun parts that you enjoy. The financial health of your business is critical to the ongoing success of your business.
And I think that to piggyback off of that, I think that we've just kind of eased into, and we're very comfortable in a space in the society in terms of entrepreneurship where everybody wants to be their own boss.
100%. They just start up there. It's
like, I'm gonna do this.
No bear. Yeah, it's too easy to start a business.
Yeah. And they see, unfortunately, what people on Instagram are putting, and they see what people on social media, what they're putting out, what people rarely put on social media who are entrepreneurs, that I didn't go to bed till 3:00 this morning because I had to do the books. I had to look at intern stuff. I had to do this. I had to do this. When you're an entrepreneur starting out, You're the janitor, HR, bookkeeper. You are all the things.
Yes.
And I think it becomes, entrepreneurship has become so glamorized, for lack of a better word, thanks to social media. And so everybody just, I shouldn't say everybody, but people just have it in their head. Oh, I'm really good at this. I'll just do this. And I'm an entrepreneur. Yeah, are you? Are you?
And we, like, to Franka's point, we don't like looking at the part of the business that isn't sexy.
No,
right? It's
don't.
like, oh, and we even have these conversations, Corey, all the time of all this stuff. Like we're thinking ahead to the things we don't actually enjoy doing that we would love to delegate down the road.
It was like, yeah, somebody else can do that. Like,
not my zone of genius. I know, like, but that's the thing when you're just getting started. And I think a lot of people don't look at this part, to your point, Franka, is like, you got to get your ducks in a row on the stuff that's not so sexy. Like, how are you going to bring in money? Do you have a bank account set up? Do you have your EIN? Like, are you actually ready to go into business ethically and legally?
Yeah.
Because I think
you can't even do anything, Lauren, down the road. If, say, for example, you want to get certified, you don't have a relationship with your banker. You don't have a relationship. You don't have good business credit. You don't have your EIN. You can't even do that. You can't even get anything. So it's just better to start better. Yes, it is an investment. But if you want to just do a DBA, you can go to the local
county clerk
and get one. But if you're trying to get bigger contracts and you want to do corporate work, you will need to have a corporate structure like an LLC or an incorporation. You have to do something, and that's going to cost you. You know, you can go on LegalZoom, and you can do it for maybe $400 or $500, maybe $600. But you have to have money to do that. You can't, it's no zero starting a business. I don't know why people say that. Like, that's not true.
You're going to start a business when I had no money in my account.
I did start a business. Zero down. And I'm like, even if you do Wix, you got to pay Wix every month, you know? You have money.
People think they can just like use their Venmo account or something and be like, yeah, just Venmo me money. I was like,
it's fine.
PayPal me. I'm like,
Because I PayPal you to reimburse you for dinner.
Yeah.
I want you to pay my bills, you know.
I know. It's unbelievable how, because we've lowered the barriers to entry for starting a business, they're a lot easier, right? There's digital places you could go, but it still is not. You still need to have money and a plan and know what you're supposed to do. There's a checklist of things you have to make sure that you have before you start the business. People won't even deal with you if you don't have a bank account for them to send money to. I don't want to Venmo. I personally don't like using like Cash App for my business. You know, like people ask me, can I just Cash App you? I'm like, no.
Wire transfer or write me a check. Like I Cash App my mom for like, hey, thanks for picking up my dry cleaning. Here's a 20, you know?
Cash App is I'm not Cash App. Check writing is going away though. But you know, I just think there's some things in business that you should have more structure around, just because of the way that it creates a paper trail for you to track your incoming and outgoing cash. And I think being able to do your taxes at the end of the year is easier when you don't have stuff going to 500 sources. You know, if you know what I'm saying? I just think it's very hard. You know, you can't hook up all your bank account to Venmo and to Cash App and to Zelle and to
No. And I mean, there's some incredible apps out there that help you as an entrepreneur to
100%.
Set all this stuff up, to like know what are your deductions going to be, what are your write-offs going to be, how much do you need to set aside for taxes?
Lauren and I had that conversation yesterday, and we were talking about, like, you know, banks that are geared towards entrepreneurs and or small businesses. And I was telling her about one that I use, you know, where it'll literally, you know, I'll get paid through it, but it'll actually pull out what my estimated tax on that amount is as an entrepreneur and just put it in an account that I don't even look at. So it's like,
I love that.
Then I just get a notice like, hey, your taxes are coming up. This is what's in the account. This is the estimated. Here's your money. You know,
I love that.
It's one less thing I have to think about, you know.
Or you have to share that with all the women, especially. I would like to know what that bank is. That sounds like the philosophy of the Profit First author.
Found. That's the bank. It's found. It's
okay.
I mean, you can invoice from it. You can do so much on it. I joined Found probably in the early stages. So maybe like a year or so ago. And in the last year, like they have Found Plus where it'll pull like your reports, it'll pull everything for you. I love it. And
That
it's
is
just,
wonderful.
like seriously, you can invoice from it. You can do everything from it. It's like
I love
its
that.
own little bookkeeping website. I love it. It's
Yeah.
never done me wrong. One thing I did want to touch on when, we talked about how entrepreneurs or people just think, oh, I'll just start a business. I'll just go get a DBA. I'll do this. You can Venmo me, you can Cash App me, whatever. So a few years ago, when I was doing more online business marketing for businesses, for small businesses, I had a conversation with one of my clients, and this is the thing that'll resonate in my head probably until the day I die. I was in his office, and his name is John Giamarco. I call him John G. Love John G. We were having this conversation, and he was very committed to helping me build my brand and helping me. Like he would refer people to me. I mean, he was like a fairy godfather in terms of business. And I was sitting in his office one day and I said, well, my business, this. And he stopped me and he goes, it's not your business. Quit playing small. It's your company. And I just kind of looked at him and he goes, the more you tell yourself that it's your company and you're the CEO of your company, it's not a business. Business, that's mom selling chocolate chip cookies to raise money for her kids. Company, you are in a room, you are a force to be reckoned with. So a lot of it is mindset as well for entrepreneurs. Yes. And I mean, it's like I catch myself sometimes, well, my business is this. Wait, no, this is my company, and it's got some weight to it. It truly has some weight to it, He's
right.
I think when people think company, when they think business, it's easy. It's not, I'm going to put something on Etsy. I'm going to do this. Nothing against Etsy. There's a bunch of stuff I buy on Etsy. But when you think company, oh, that involves like an S Corp or a C Corp or an LLC and management agreements and structure. And that's not sexy. That's not fun. That's not glamorous. I don't want to do it. But if you want to do it right, to yours and Lauren's point, jump into the company pool, get out of the business pool.
That's a great point. And the clarity that you now have, you can walk into like the SBA, go to SCORE. A lot of universities even have an entrepreneurial center and connected with their MBA program that you can get free services. But they're going to ask you to be clear on what it is that you're doing. So that's why this work that I told you initially is so important. You got to be able to answer their questions.
Yeah.
Because even if they give you legal services or they give you bookkeeping and financial services, you still have to be able to answer about your question. And they'll ask you, okay, can I see your DBA or can I see your EIN? And do you have, if you haven't done any of that, they're going to send you back to do that work, or they may help all of
that. Yeah.
Absolutely. So that's why the stuff I'm telling you, to do before is so important, because you want to walk in really clear about what is the type of company that you're building. And I agree with you, with your John G, 100% about how your mind thinks about what you're building. If you think about it small, you're going to stay small.
Yep.
And if you think about it like a company and you're the CEO, you're going to probably think about scaling much faster because you already, and men do this right off the bat. Even if they don't have the skills, they immediately come and say, okay, this is my company and da-da-da-da. And I notice women don't always do that. There's some that do, but
if we
a lot come in. Yeah.
If you do it, your women are kind of looked at. They're looked upon by other women like, oh, you're fancy. Oh, okay. I see. Like, oh, what you doing? Oh, okay. You think you're too good. Okay. You have a company, and it's just, it's such a difference in messages and portrayals in between men and women. And it's just like, why?
Yeah. But I mean, it brings up this other point where I think, again, Corey and I have talked a lot about this, where there was this whole philosophy for many years in entrepreneurship where it's like you needed to have this very detailed business plan before you even took steps into entrepreneurship. Like you got to know everything, like down to every line item, everything you think you're going to do, your projections, all the things. And I still talk to people that very much think in that way. Like, have you thought 5 years down the road? Like, what is your plan to scale? How are you going to bring on employees? Like, have you thought through every facet of this business before you put it out into the world? What are your thoughts on that? Because I hear a lot more entrepreneurs being like, if you have an idea, you know who you are, you're mission driven, you have somewhat of a plan. Maybe you don't have every step mapped out. Are you ready to take that leap?
Yeah, I don't think you need to spend all that time putting together a business plan. I think you need to execute. You need to have somewhat of a plan of, what you want to do and what you're trying to create and some goals. But I don't think spending, because you could spend all that time creating something and doing all the research and it change, because technology is changing the world so rapidly. The time you would have taken to sit down and do all that stuff, it might have already changed. So you got to start executing much faster. And as you execute, you're learning and you're adapting. We have in tech, I'm sure you are familiar with this, Lauren, we work in Scrum or Agile, right? Yep. And every 2 weeks we do sprints. So we're constantly, creating software that we can launch every 2 weeks. We call it constant innovation, constant improvement. So as we're learning, we are like, okay, let's take the learning. And every 2 weeks we check and we do retrospective. And, we're saying, okay, here's what we learned in those 2 weeks of doing the sprint. It's the same concept, I think, in business. I think that's the model that I like, is that I check in with myself after I've done something and say, okay, what did I learn? You get feedback, you take surveys, you get, all of the social proof to say that you did something good. And you refine based on the feedback that you're getting. I think that's a better approach.
Yeah. So for anyone who's listening, contemplating this leap, because it's a big decision, and it sounds really glamorous, to Corey's point too, like everyone wants to be their own boss, wants to start their own business. How do you know when you're ready?
I don't think there's any like marker that, for me, it was a feeling, a pulling, a calling that you're ready to do this. But I also had saved a lot of money, because my financial advisor that I had spoken to, I had one at the time. And he says, as much money as you think you need more. He said, you're never going to feel like you have enough money. He was right. I burned through that money quickly. and I was like, yeah, he's right. I need more money. But the reality is, I think you just know in yourself, if you know yourself really well and you've taken the time to really sit with yourself, I think when it's time to make that leap. Create a little bit of safety to save money, have the structure. I would say almost replace your income that you currently are making comfortably with your business income, so that when you transition, you still can take care of all your responsibilities, all your bills. Because if you cannot pay yourself with your business income, you're not ready to leave.
Yep. Because I think that's a good thing to think about too. A lot of people wish or want to be able to just leave the 9 to 5 if that's what they've got going right now and launch the business. But the reality is, this is something I've struggled with for years, thinking about this, is like, I can't just leave my 9 to 5 yet.
Yeah.
I need the safety. Yeah. Side hustle it till, and I said, it's got to be like a scalable thing. And then to your point, you're kind of going to know when you can replace your income, or maybe you can start scaling back. And that's where my mind has gone in my own life, is like, how can I start scaling back some of the things I'm doing that I would consider my 9 to 5, where my side hustle starts taking more and more of my bandwidth, to the point where, I've fully replaced my income, and hopefully I'm making more than I was before.
Absolutely. Right? That to me, Lauren, is a really good plan. Really, really good plan. And you said something that's really interesting, looking at your expenses and what you're spending money on, because when you have a comfortable safety net from an employer, you have things, sometimes you're paying for things that you don't think about, but you have to become very mindful of where your money is going as an entrepreneur when you're ready to take that leap. You can't just spend money frivolously. You have to be really very intentional about what you're putting your money in. So just taking inventory. What am I spending money on that I really don't need to be spending money on?
Yeah. Doing that audit.
Maybe.
Yes.
And not being afraid to do that audit, and then kind of look at, wow, I'm spending that much on this. Why? What do I need it for?
Personally, do you both follow the Budgetnista?
I love me.
I have her book, but I haven't. I know I don't follow her.
So
I love her.
I have her book and I follow her stuff, and I was like,
the 4 quadrants, the want, need, all that. Yep.
And figuring out because a lot of what we buy, for some of us, like, we're impulsive, or we're like, oh, I need this thing. But
Oh,
to your
yeah.
point, when you're going into entrepreneurship and it's the beginning of it and you're still maybe not even generating revenue yet, or it's very little, you got to watch where everything's going.
100%.
Because I'm
Yeah.
like, how do you reinvest back into the company too when you need to, especially if you're not taking outside money? Because this is something too, and this could be a whole other conversation, because a lot of people think, right, we're in a world where I need VC money or I need someone to fund my startup.
Because you're still beholden to them.
That's right.
They're
I'm like,
still going to, there's expectations that they are going to have and put on you in order to keep that VC relationship going. And you have to be really careful when you decide to take that step into the VC world, because one, your goal, your platform, your mission, your purpose it can be very, very easily swayed and compromised by the VCs. So then in that instance, you have a job that you have to perform, and you're not even calling the shots anymore sometimes.
Yeah. And I mean, VCs have an interest in making money quickly. So you have to be able to prove that very quickly. And that can also very quickly change how you operate the business and the ethics of your business. This is just things I've seen.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like I said, I think this is a whole separate conversation, but maybe like a brief something on anyone who's in this boat of maybe thinking like they need outside funding to start something. Like, quickly, what would be the pros and cons of like doing it on your own versus trying to get it funded?
Yeah.
For me, one of the first things that I did when I was working in the corporation, because there was some stuff with my credit because of my husband that I needed to take care of. So I made sure that I got really good credit. Believe it or not, you don't always want to use all your own money to fund your business. You might need to get investments. So the first thing I did was make sure that I had an excellent credit score, your FICO score. Pull it up, look it up, and start working on making sure that you have really good pay all your bills on time, manage how much credit you're using versus how much credit you have available. There's the budgetista, if you follow her, she'll teach you how to do all of that. But it's so, so important. And that was the first thing I did. The second thing I did was to create an account that covered as much money that I thought I would need. So I had an emergency fund set up and all the things, right? But I think I, really felt like I could run this business because the overhead for my business wasn't very high. I was mostly using my own personal capital to create my business. Now, when you have a very high overhead, and when you have a new innovation, and it's going to cost you maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars to create what your business is really about, you may need to go the venture capital route. Because how else are you going to be able to create the innovation if you don't have some capital? But if you have good credit, you might be able to go borrow it from a bank. If you have, good savings and they can see that you're a good risk. The reason that people go VC route is because they don't have the capital. They don't have maybe they have the credit, but they don't have enough of it. So they don't have the history of being able to show that they are a good risk. And they use VC funds to kind of help them get this really great innovation off the ground. So I think it's just being able to weigh, what your business needs to get it going versus what you can do yourself. And my business, luckily, was not one that needed VC funding. Like if I came up with an innovation now, I may need some VC funding, or I could probably, build a prototype myself and just go to a bank, and get funding to build it out. So put yourself in the best position to win without it is my recommendation. I don't want someone like when I watch Shark Tank and then they ask for like 80% of somebody's company. I was like, you've done this all this time and now they're going to take 80% of your company.
That's 80% of you in essence.
Yeah. I love some of the sharks, but I always feel really bad for the person that's what they have to do to continue building their dream,
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and that's a really good point. It's like, who do you want to be beholden to?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that is something people don't consider. They're just like, oh, VC is like this sexy thing. Like, oh,
It's
someone's like
trending, it's
interested in my
exciting.
idea.
Yeah.
But it's like
yeah,
they,
it's a good idea.
yeah, they
Okay.
have terms and they want to make money. So be
They're
very
in it to
clear.
make money, Lauren,
Yeah.
right?
That's the only reason. Yeah. I mean, it's like,
And
why
as
are
fast
you?
as possible.
Yeah. I want to make good on my return as quickly as good on my investment as quickly as I can. Because then I'll give you more money. So now I'm just going to keep dangling a carrot in front of you that gets bigger and bigger and
Yep.
bigger, but that puts more pressure on you. And before you know it, your company could be something completely different from what you initially started it out to be.
Yep.
So just
Yeah.
to be respectful of your time, Franka, because obviously we want you to come back. Oh my God, yes. Because there's like 4 other
Yes,
episodes.
please.
Oh my gosh. But before I forget, you said you have not read The Budgetnista yet?
No, I have
Okay.
this is Tiffany Aliche, right?
Yeah.
Her book.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have one of her books. I haven't read the 5 a.m. Club.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was also going to say Tiffany is on she's on a Netflix movie, Get Good with Money.
Yep.
It's her and 3 other finance coaches, and they work with clients for a year, and so you follow them. So she breaks some stuff down. She's amazing. I love her.
Yeah, she's great. She's great.
But yeah, just to be respectful of your time, I just kind of want to close this out and asking you our final question, which is, what are you currently in transition with anything at this point in time, or what are you feeling is next for you on your journey?
So next, I am relaunching frankabaly.com, which is going to be my personal brand for women over 40. Very, very focused brand, building out their brands. They're helping them with their brand strategy. I'm going to be doing some speaking. I hit a lot, I'm behind the computer, and so now I'm going to be doing more of this, sharing what I know. I have a lot of knowledge and a lot of experience that I want to share with the next generation of entrepreneurs, business owners, company, magicians, people that are going to do great things. I want to be able to share that knowledge with them. Not to minimize, cut down all the mistakes they're going to make, because mistakes is where you learn, but obviously help them to avoid some things that I know that I went through that really could help them. So that launches, that's the kind of transition. I have kind of like still have a corporate arm of my business, which is the FBUX consulting arm. That's where I go and I do the UX consulting with companies and government agencies and stuff like that. But this particular frankabaly.com brand is one that is kind of the stuff that I was talking about earlier, where I help people kind of get into their, what are you really trying to create, and who are you trying to create it for? And, what's your why? And is there a market for what you're trying to do? I ask those questions, and people, it helps them really think through that and be very clear and intentional. So I'm excited about that launch.
All the stuff that you have going on. We didn't even touch upon your greeting card business. We didn't even
company
talk about that.
Whole other conversation.
Yeah, that's a whole another. So now we have 5 new episodes that we could do with you. Franka, where can people currently find you on social? How can they get in contact with you?
Yeah, you go to Instagram, Franka Baly, LinkedIn, Franka Baly.
Very simple, guys. It's super simple. Easy. Franka, to say that you are a vibe in the beginning, that's after this conversation, it's a whole other, it's a next level
whole other vibe.
Yeah. It's not even a vibe, it's a feeling. It's a Franka, thank you so much for being on our show.
Thank you guys
for dropping the knowledge nuggets and just the love and energy and care that you've put into this conversation. And we just thank you for your time so much. Everybody, on behalf of Lauren and I, you have been listening to In Transition, and we will see you guys soon. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for tuning in this week. We appreciate our listeners more than you could ever know. If you liked any part of what you heard, please do us a favor and follow the podcast so you never miss an episode. And if you're willing to go a step further, we would love for you to leave us a review and send this episode to a friend that you feel would be served by it in any way. We are so excited to finally share more about Catalyst, the community that we are building in conjunction with this podcast. Our mission with Catalyst is to create an authentic, safe, and inclusive space for heart-centered, growth-minded, multi-passionate women to navigate their life's transitions by building meaningful relationships, learning from one another, and growing into the best version of themselves. and maybe even make the world a little bit better in the process. If you're interested in becoming a founding member of Catalyst, we would love to learn more about you and have you apply at wearecatalyst, all one word, .social. We only have a limited number of spots for this founding member round, so be sure to get your application in soon. Again, the website to apply is wearecatalyst.social. We look forward to the possibility of getting to know you on a deeper level and supporting you in navigating your life's transitions. We cannot wait to have you join us for the next episode. Until then, we encourage you to lean into your community and embrace the growth that inevitably happens when you're in transition. See you guys next week.